Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Casco Bay Auctions podcast, where we talk about all things auctions and things related to what we do here on a regular basis. We might answer questions you never knew you had, or get into something you've always wondered about. Today, we are starting with the basics. We'll talk about who we are, what we do, kind of break the ice, as it were. Forewarning, none of us have done this before, but we definitely know how to sell consignment. Let's get started.
Andrew here. Uh, I guess I own the place. I'm the auctioneer, head honcho, whatever you want to call me. Uh, so question I get most often is how I got into this. Long story short, I was an art student at the University of Southern Maine, studying photography. Had a little website of some of my photos, and one day just got a call completely out of the blue by a graphic designer for Northeast Auctions in Portsmouth, about an hour from Portland. I wanted to know if I wanted to was available to come down and photograph some pewter. It was actually it was my first foray. So I went down, met Ron Bourgeot, who's the auctioneer there. May know him from Antiques Roadshow, and we kind of hit it off. I never knew I was interested in antiques, but kind of developed an interest and wound up pretty much never leaving there for 15 years. And then 20 2019 they closed. Ron decided to retire, so I needed a new gig. Um, and I had met Linda Bean through Ron at one of his auctions, and sort of started doing a little bit of handyman work for her just to, you know, keep the family fed and whatnot. And kind of one thing sort of led to another. It was suggested that maybe I should get my auctioneer's license. A few people mentioned that. So I did. And September of 2019, I held my first auction in the basement of Linda's shop here in Freeport, her antique shop. And that's where we are now.
Thank you. All right, next we have Meg.
All right. Well, in a roundabout sort of way, I have an art degree. I went to three different colleges, two of them in pursuit of being a fantastic athlete. And, my education aspirations were sort of an afterthought. And then the third one, when my athletic door had closed, I focused on my academics. I have a fine arts degree, which mistakenly started as being placed in the photography program. And, through various transfers and other things, I came out on the other side of that, not as a photographer, but primarily as a printmaker and a drawer. Um, Pretty rusty with most of my art these days, but I like to think I have good vision and some skill. And in a roundabout sort of way, I am back to doing photography here at Casco Bay Auctions, along with all the other kind of daily to-dos of operation. Um, I didn't initially start here at the inception of the company. I worked at a hospital, I worked at the Y, lots of people in basically. I wasn't a physical therapist, but I tell people I played one on TV, and I was a lifeguard. But as Andrew's company grew, as a good spouse, I supported him and joined the team when he needed a little bit of extra people. And been here for what, 3, 4 years? 4 years? I don't know, something like that.
About 4 years.
About 4 years. My favorite aspects of the job here are definitely setting up for preview in our galleries, which is basically my little version of interior decorating. And I guess my secondary favorite part of the gig here is there's always a revolving door of kind of old, new items to play with.
Thank you, Meg. I'm Elizabeth. I have a degree in fine art that I got several years ago. I'm not going to say how many. I worked a handful of administrative type jobs for probably longer than I should have. Then early 2020 kicked my butt, and my world was pretty much turned upside down, like it was for a lot of folks. I've heard so many stories of entrepreneurial people's dreams and their businesses having to be completely reworked, adapted, or they pivoted entirely. So I am one of many. I did what a lot of people were doing at the time. I began my journey back to things that actually interest me, like making art, working for myself as a web designer, and kind of a jack of all trades in that area for small businesses and individual clients. And eventually, by September 2020, I started working here at Casco Bay Auctions, where I get to use all the skills I learned along the way. Well, we wear many hats here. I do a lot of photography, some marketing projects, plenty of behind the scenes tasks, working with the public, and a lot of a little bit of most things. I'm very much in the learning phase when it comes to assessing the value or age of things that come in the door, but I've done a little cataloging and researching, and I'm looking forward to getting sharper in that area. Oh, and I've guest starred during the auctions as an announcer while Andrew takes breaks. That's fun. So, why podcast? Do you know of any other auction houses that do podcasts? Because we don't. But it actually started as a joke between me and Meg, was announcing part of a sale. Meg and I started chatting a little longer about the lot I was announcing. So to pull it back in, I said, that's what we'll talk about on our next podcast episode. And it hit us both immediately. We should do a podcast. Meg is already our social media maven, and I have some marketing experience as well. So we're both often thinking about how to reach more people and the people who would appreciate what Casco Bay Auctions has to offer. We want to be able to talk to the people out there who have questions they may not even know to ask. There is a lot about auctions that's still a mystery to the general public. Who is Casco Bay Auctions?
Yes. So I touched on this a little bit in my intro about me, which I guess should have been more about me and less about the company. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so Casco Bay Auctions was started 2019 in, as I mentioned, in the basement of Linda Bean's antique shop here in Freeport. It was more or less done in the model of Northeast Auctions, which is the company I worked for a number of years, obviously on a much smaller scale. But the idea was to be a resource for local people, for local collectors, people that are downsizing, etc. Provide a level of service that's not really prevalent with some of the larger auction houses, and have fun with it. And also, we are pretty much the only auction house in the area. The next closest are a fine arts auction house in South Portland, a general country auction up near Augusta. So there really aren't many other auction companies around. So that's kind of one reason I decided to make a go for it, and it was something I knew how to do. I guess we'll pass it on to Elizabeth to tell a little bit more.
Um, yeah, so like Andrew said, he got started in Linda Bean's antiques basement for a new business. In my opinion, I guess he did really well and grew quickly over the last 6 years. Andrew has 15 plus years of experience. Is that right? Yeah. With a lot of connections from your previous employment at Northeast Auctions. So that makes a world of difference. Um, you were ready and it was the right time. Yeah. And like Andrew was saying, we're a boutique auction house. Uh, we focus on selling items that reach a threshold of quality and market value. Our results are comparable to much larger companies, and I think Andrew touched on that a little bit. We're also really personable, which you will eventually begin to see. Right now, we're trying to figure this podcast thing out. Uh, when you call or email us, you're talking to a real person. We don't use any bots or AI. Um, we all love Maine. I am the only one from away, but I spent years planning on moving here. It's one of the beautiful qualities of a small Maine business when so many places are providing less and less actual service to their customer. So we get to balance that small town feeling with being a competitive auction house that has sold some of the most successful pieces for upwards of $30,000. Andrew, why don't you talk about where most of our items come from?
Sure. So we work with a lot of local estates, collectors, people downsizing. I'd say the majority of our items come from southern Maine. We do reach farther out, and we get a lot of things in the mid coast region, a little bit in western Maine. I've traveled as far as Milwaukee, upstate New York. Really anywhere there's good things to sell, I will. If I think there's money to be made, I'll be there. I'm a little bit of a such and such that way. And that's kind of the broad strokes of where most of our things come from. It's a little bit of a mix, but mostly from local, and that's again, like I said, sort of our my goal was to be a resource for local people, so that suits me pretty well.
And why don't we talk about who buys from us?
So again, a lot of the people that sell through us are also the people that buy from us. See a lot of folks that will downsize their collection and then immediately realize they still have the collecting bug and start buying things, or folks will. There's people that are always improving their collection, they might buy something from us that is really fantastic, and we got the item that they're replacing. So a lot of our buyers are also our sellers. We sell to collectors locally. It's at maybe 25% of what we sell goes to local buyers, and we also sell to collectors all around the world. I think we've sold to, at this point, I know all 50 states, and I think at last count it was 30 something countries.
Nice.
Um, we sell somewhat regularly to Italy, to the UK, Australia, interestingly enough. So really, really all over the world. Interior decorators, that's another crowd that we seem to do pretty well with. Also a few celebrities. We are very big on customer privacy, so I can't tell you who they are, but
They're really cool.
they're really cool. They're big names. They're not nobodies. We've also sold some items to some museums as well. So that's always fun and gratifying.
I like how you mentioned that a lot of the sellers are also the buyers. And that's something that I learned coming into this business, that the auction world is a kind of a funny, small, self sustaining ecosystem that everybody buys and sells from each other. And eventually you are going to end up buying something you sold 20 years ago.
Oh yes, lots of people buy things they sold.
We probably have.
We probably have.
So when our auctions, we have auctions pretty much every month. Um, we also, I should mention, we have sort of a child company called Chapel Street Auctions, where we have a lot of pieces that are very affordable. Um, and that one is more periodic. But Andrew, why don't you talk a little bit about the themes that we usually put on the auctions, like Americana, international, modern, specialty sales, things like that.
So we've sort of settled into a somewhat regular schedule here. We typically do 2 to 3 Americana sales a year. March, August, and November typically are when we run Americana, and that covers folk art, early American furniture, redware, ceramics, as well as some international things, Chinese export porcelain. Basically, it's anything that you would have found in an 18th or 19th century home in the United States. Also interspersed with occasionally some art by more modern artists, but pretty much stuff from this side of the pond, as they say. Those are March, August, and November typically. Our other big category, and again, we're really one of the only auction houses in Maine that really focuses on modern art and design. We typically have those sales in May, October, occasionally in July, but usually May and October are two big mid-century sales, and that covers modern art, pretty much anything produced in the 20th or 21st century that has a modern feel. So prints, fine art, mid-century modern furniture, decorative items, Again, anything you would have found in a home kind of in the 60s and 70s, or in a cool home in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah. Right. Right. And I think, yeah, we're all millennials here. So I know I can speak for myself when I say I'm a sucker for mid century modern. Apparently, that makes me a statistic.
I've definitely noticed that that sale has a younger group of buyers, whereas our Americana sale is probably like our biggest, most local favorite, but it's an older crowd often.
Yeah.
Not exclusively, but often. So,
Yeah. And we're really lucky because we actually sit right next to the Thomas Moser flagship store. And so we've been able to sell quite a few of those pieces. And Andrew was telling me the other day how we are the only auction house that sells Thomas Moser. Is that right?
Not the only. We're the large. We've sold more than any other auction house.
Okay.
That's
More than
clarified. More of them.
more.
I think we just edged out Thomaston Place.
Right.
and Moser is one of those categories that can go in Americana or modern.
Yes.
If you have it, bring it on in. We'll find a place for it.
And then our final regularly scheduled programming is, or actually two final. We have international sales, which are pretty much everything that's not American. So Asian art, African art, European art, and antiques. Some furniture. We don't do a ton of English furniture. Is generally not a big seller, so we don't do a ton of it. But certain select furniture pieces. Anyway, basically, if it was created not in the United States, sometime in the 19th century or earlier, it's game for that sale. And our probably Meg's favorite sale is our holiday sparkle in December, which
I'm such a mag for that.
where we cover pretty much anything shiny, jewelry, small decorative items like art glass is a big hit in that, silver, gold, basically anything shiny, good. Yeah, sometimes designer, anything that's a gifting item. We'll sometimes have some small artworks. Sort of our pre-Christmas gift sale.
Yep. And for our listeners out there, in future episodes, Meg and I will be taking over for the most part, and we'll be doing some individual deep dives into some of the details, like Chinese ceramics or art glass, like Andrew just mentioned. So you'll get to learn more about that stuff. So, where do each of you think we're headed? Where would you like to go from here as a business?
It's a good question for the new year.
Perfect question for the new year.
Good question. Who wants to start? What the heck, I'll do it. So I think I think we're headed upward as a company. We're growing and expanding our presence still. I wouldn't call myself a maven necessarily, but like socials are fun and hopefully we can tie this into that. And we're gaining a bigger audience, but really what I'm seeing a lot of is that we're becoming part of a cultural movement. Um, where our current consumerist tendencies for fast and new products are fading a little bit, and people like our age and younger are really there's a shift anyway back to reusing, rescuing, upcycling, recycling, and sort of a respect for older products that have been around longer, have greater craftsmanship, greater
Yeah.
materials.
Like they don't make things like they used to.
I'm pretty sure, going forward in the antiques world when things become 100 years old, absolutely nobody is going to be excited about particle board and plastic. So,
True, yeah.
I think our kids and us are onto something here, hopefully. And I love a good story. I'm like such a sucker about a good story. So when these objects come in that have like lived a life, I want to know what they lived. I want to know who had them. I want to know what they saw. Like if the paintings on the wall could tell us all the things they saw in the houses they hung on, or like the necklace that I love, like who wore it before me? Where did they go? What cocktail parties did they go to? Like I love that stuff. So
Yeah, it's part of the fun. There's a
it's
little bit
fun.
of mystery, maybe some researching where you can find more stuff out.
You can totally make it up too. I mean, yeah, we won't make it up to sell it to you, but if you really love what you bought and you want to give it a story, that's fun too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think future podcasts, along with our social media, we do like staff picks for our auctions. We could probably deep dive a little bit into some of our favorites for those. That'd be sort of a fun game to play.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like a lot of what you had to say there. I know Andrew and I have talked a lot about where Casco Bay Auctions is going, and I think we share the same vision. In the years to come, we'd love to keep elevating the kinds of lots we're selling. Chapel Street Auctions, like I mentioned before, has a lot of the affordable items, and it will probably still have a presence if I had to guess. But we want to get to a place where we're consistently offering more middle to higher end pieces with every auction.
So yeah, it's Chapel Street will continue as I've said. We're a resource for people, so it does mean that we sometimes will get um, an entire estate to sell, or a larger collection that may have items of various quality levels. Let's say, not everybody has all all of the best of the best. Most people have a mixture of good, bad, and otherwise. So that's really the goal, is to get more of the good and less of the bad and otherwise, and really to keep elevating that sort of the level of the Casco Bay auction sales, and hopefully also elevating the Chapel Street auction sales a little bit as well. As you put more and better items into Casco Bay auctions, obviously the level of items that will go over to Chapel Street will also rise a little bit. So
Right. A rising tide lifts all boats.
cumulatively, just getting better and higher valued items is the goal, which is of course what everybody else is trying to do. So it's where the competition comes in.
But we're going to do it.
We're gonna get there.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we got this.
I'm okay with shiny stuff still to you, but it's just not photographing shiny stuff. That's tough.
More expensive and smaller. That's the goal.
That's also why we don't get a ton of furniture, because that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Picking it up and putting it down is not a ton of fun.
So thank you to everyone who has listened to episode 1 of our podcast. We are very much figuring this out, and we look forward to interacting with you. Thank you.